Alright, so I'm tired. I'm at work. I just realized that the other video may not have been appealing to people. But anyway, so we had moved to Adelanto. And sometimes we would take, if we were going down the hill, we would take, dirt road. Instead of going the 15 freeway, we would take dirt road and all that stuff. Just like back roads, fire roads, and stuff like that, to bypass the 15 freeway on the Cajon Pass. And by we, I mean my dad and I. He had a 1970 Toyota FJ40 Land Cruiser, and I still have a 2006 Jeep Wrangler LJ, which is the extended TJ. And so we would just take like back roads, just why not, so we discovered this one spot that had burned down. And it was off of, up over the railroad tracks, back up in the hills. And we would basically drive through this area to get up over the hills and up into, I don't want to say it's Oak Hills on that side of the 15, but I'll just say it's Oak Hills for right now. And we would just hit one of the paved roads and go over to 395, go 395 all the way up to where we live. And because we were right off 395 and Palmdale Road. And anyway, you guys can check one of my other, my UFO videos for this. This is going to be a paranormal video. So we would go through this area and it was all like burned down and everything, and in the one spot they had like going up over the railroad tracks, there was this big giant pad, and then there was a generator on this pad, like an old generator like 1940s 1950s model generator sitting on this pad. And there was like power distribution lines, going from the generator up telephone poles and running all through this stuff. I mean, the telephone poles were all burnt and all the wires were gone when we lived there, but you could tell that they had been plugged into the generator, and the telephone poles were running lines all the way back into this little neighborhood. And you could tell that they were like little, like 1-2 bedroom little like huts and stuff like that, made out of wood, because you could tell like the base of where they were at was like log. It looked like log cabins, kind of, sort of. And they had a hole in the ground with that they made it like a community swimming pool there. You could kind of see all this stuff on some of the links I'm going to post. So one afternoon, I want to say like dusk, we were driving up through there, and we were just actually going to go up and turn around, and then we had to be somewhere down in Rancho Cucamonga area at like 8 o'clock at night. And we had just gone up through there because coming down the 15, we had seen like lights out in that area, and we're like, screw it, we got a little bit of time, let's go out there. We'll just screw around for a little bit. So we had gone out there, and we were coming up to this certain point, and it was my dad and I. We were in the Land Cruiser at the time, and we saw like this woman out there in like this 1940s getup, like, and we kind of like, what is she doing out here in that? And it wasn't cold, but it was chilly. It was about 55 degrees out at that time. And I was like, what is she doing out here with no jacket, no coat? Like, it's like, even I had a hoodie on at that time. And I was just like, what is she doing out here in like a 1940s dress? It was one of those big, like really big dresses on the bottom. And I'm like, what is she doing out here in that? And then my dad had kind of pulled over to the side of the road so that if somebody went by, they could get through. And I went to go get out to see if she needed help. And I got within like 10 feet of her and she disappeared. Like into thin air. And my dad, I turned around, I looked at my dad's mouth was hanging open. And again, this was when we lived in Adelanto. So this had to have been between 2004 to 2008. Okay. So, you know, my dad's mouth was all hanging open. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what just happened? And I walked over to where she was standing, and there was a almost like a handle to a cast iron pan. And I was like, oh shit, like maybe she was cooking or whatever. Like, but she was like bent over, almost like, and it would have been where a house was standing. Because you could go on the outline of the ground and you could see all where the houses were because of how everything burned. And I was like, oh shit, maybe this was like where the stove was or the fireplace or whatever. Like you could tell by looking at it that's maybe where the stove was at. And I was like, that was just weird. So I got back in the Land Cruiser and we're just bebopping up and we get up to where the pool is at, which it's about maybe 10 vehicle lengths from where we just saw this lady in this dress. And we see a little kid like run across the road and then jump like this into the pool. And it was like a solid person. There was it wasn't like a mist. It wasn't a mass. It was literally, we saw the kid's legs moving. We saw the kid's bathing suit moving. We saw the kid's arms moving like he was running. And it was like a bathing suit out of the 40s. So it was and it's like, and we just saw, this kid like run across the road and then jump like he went to go jump in the pool. And then before his body disappeared into the pool, he disappeared. He was gone. And so we're like, what the fuck? Like, goddamn. So we had bebopped up a little bit up the road. And then there was so from what we talked about, so there's a gas station right there that has a Del Taco in it, right at the 15 and 138. This is where you get access to that road from the 15 or 138. There was a local that used to be there all the time meeting at Del Taco. And we talked to him one day. And he looked like an old timer, full beard, white hair, white beard. Kind of like, what do I want to say? I'm trying to think of the word plaid shirt, like a lumberjack shirt. And jeans, suspenders, and a kind of like a hat like a miner would wear, and not a cowboy hat, but one of those one of those like mining hats that you would picture an old miner wearing. And we were talking to him one day, and we say, hey, like this little like village that was burned down up there, what was going on with that? And this was after we had seen all these apparitions. And he goes, well, these settlers came in the 1920s, 1930s, and they settled in here, built some houses out of local trees. And he goes, they were gold miners. And I was like, well, this is a weird place to settle for gold. I mean, there is a river that runs through there, and during the winter, it can get pretty decently moving. And I know that up over this area, because we would come up this one area and then go down like this into a riverbed and then go back out the other side to get to the backside of Oak Hills, where we would catch the one road. I forget the name of the one road that runs east and west out there. We'd catch that, get on to 395 and go north. And we would find gold in there, my dad and I. We'd find, flakes of gold and all that stuff with a gold pan. And but, it wasn't impossible we didn't find much, it was just, flakes. It wasn't much to turn in or collect money on or whatever. But he was telling us that it was actually like booming. Like they actually found I think he said it was something like 900 ounces over a 10-year period or something like that. That's a lot of fucking gold. That is a lot of gold. But the Indians came through, he said, and slaughtered the whole entire village. Like everybody, killed everybody. The kids, the animals, the horses, the sheep, the cows, the chickens, everything and everybody, they killed them. And then obviously they one of the fires that California is known for went through there and wiped out, the homes and everything. But yeah, that was just weird. And then we had so further up the road, let me get back on track here. Further up the road kind of goes up like this, snakes through, and then kind of curves like that, and then goes back in. So on this curve up here, there was a little village up here with several homes and houses and stuff up there. And we were going up there, and we kind of turned off the road, and we were kind of just cruising in through there, and we found Native Americans, and we pulled up and we stopped and we had to do our business. And so I go to turn around and I see this mean looking mofo, mean looking a Native American, and he was solid, not see-through, not a mist, not a mass. Like I could see homeboy's sweat on his face. This thing was so real. And my dad, so I was here alongside a wall, a concrete wall, because Edison, I think it was Edison, was up there, and they made like a storage shed, a cinder block concrete storage shed up there to store some of their equipment that they used up there, because they were always having issues with the electrical lines up there, and they were tired of trucking in equipment and all that shit. So that had caught fire and the walls were burnt black and all that stuff, and it was no longer being used, but it had like California Edison signs all over it, and you could tell it was like used as a work shed and a storage shed from all the stuff that was in it. So anyway, so I was along that wall, and I had turned, and then my dad had come around the corner of our Land Cruiser. And so we were kind of triangulated looking at this Native American dude. And my dad was like, is that guy solid? Is he real? Is he alive? Hey, "Hey, what's your name?" And the guy looked at my dad, and he lifted his hand up. And the weird thing was we couldn't see his hands. Everything else was solid, and you could see the sweat on his face and like his upper body. And you could see like his torso and his hips and his legs and his feet, but you couldn't see his hands. His hands were like, what do I want to say? They were like a mist. His hands were like a mist. Like you could tell they were hands, but they were like fuzzy. I don't know how to explain it. Almost like static on a TV, sort of. So anyway, so he raised his hand like this, and then you could see a hand. It like came out, it materialized out of the mist, and there was a tomahawk in his hand. And he went like this and made a face and went to go charge. And I just kind of like stood up like this, and I'm like, don't. Because we carry. My dad and I carried at that time, especially in that area. And this guy was so lifelike. I wasn't scared because something told me that it was fake, that it was an apparition. And something told me it wasn't real. Obviously it might have been the hands thing. But he went like this and he kind of went like that to me, and I said, don't. And all of a sudden he disappeared. And he didn't like poof disappear. He like misted away. Almost like static on a TV. He like misted away. And I just looked at my dad and I'm like, yo, we got to get the fuck up out of here. Like, I don't want to go any further up into the mountains, because now we're getting, let's get the fuck up out of here. So anyway, so we got back in the Land Cruiser and we took off, and we were talking about what we saw and all that shit on the way down in Rancho Cucamonga. And but yeah, that was another story. I'll have links up in there. And but yeah, that was another story. So I was gonna include another thing in here, but we're running on 18 minutes, so I'll make a separate video for that.